government. So they have to push in their own demands. So even when government is financially handicapped, ASU is not aware. Because if ASU is aware of government spending and government earnings, ASU will know when to make demands. So it is this closed nature of governance in our system that is causing this, conflict between ASU every day. And the worst case scenario is that it is not even ASU members that suffer. It's the children of this country that suffers. I think we need to have a rethink about the way we approach governance and the way we run unions. That's what we need to do at this level.
All right, thank you very much. I'll come back to you on the issue of transparency in the government. But let's just get the view of our guest. Gariba, what's your take on the call by Seraph that the Fed presidency should channel its feeding and travel allowances and that of the National Assembly to meeting the demands of ASU? Don't you think that's a little bit overboard? Well, I think this is a little bit overboard, but let's come back to you. You said that ASU does not know what the government is doing and the government does not know what. But do you think we can actually have a transparent system where everyone gets to know what is going on? And so because actually, like you said, if they get to know what's going on, I think most of these agitations will actually be minimized.
Yes. Now, Nigeria as a country runs a very bogus structure of governance. That you have to pay, even when government gives budgets, with the budget. Now, there's no consultation with all the sectors. What are your needs? Government actor just sits in Abuja and read a figure and say, this is our budget. For budget to be accomplishing or embracing, all the MDGs, ministries, whatever, government departments, and opinion leaders should already be consulted and say, we want to run a budget of this value. And this budget, this is what this budget would do, and this is what the budget would not do. These things are not in our system. Government does not consult. And so that's why they sit down in the office and give a figure. And we just hear on news, government is spending 7 trillion based on pump price of, or what they call it, barrels of crude. So that's been the bane of our problems over time. Just like I said, I've been issue. See, government do not have trust in us. In that cabinet, they don't. Because in developed climes, ASU should be a technology feeder to governance. Now, what ASU produce from university, government own them in terms of technology, as is done in India and other developed climes. You see the tricycle that is driven across Nigeria today. It's a product and assignment of students. The government just own it. We as teachers, as lecturers, we should also sometimes sit and ask ourselves, what have we produced for government to take over? So these are the areas of disconnect. Government feels that too, okay, we just pump money into academics and nothing in union and nothing is coming out. Okay, if we are pumping money into the laboratories, what does the labs all across the country's universities produce for government to tap from them? The little that has been given, what have we done with it? You see, everything is so political in our country that all we form union for is for our personal interests. As soon as we even give the fund, leadership of this group share the fund, and before you know, it's gone. So sometimes let's be sincere to ourselves. If we are also, just like I am, are we doing what is right? Are we really doing that? Okay, if we have been given a fund so far, what has those funds, as little as they are, what have they done for the universities? So there are some questions we need to ask. And also we sat down and allow our members corrupt society. We don't worry about it. We don't even care about what our members are doing. Exploitation going around all universities everywhere in the world, and everybody keeps quiet. But when we sit down and work up with ASU, we are fighting for a right, increase of funding. let us address our internal issues first. Let us build good students, good graduates. So we use them as mouthpiece. Even sometimes our students can fight for us. But in the way we exist, even students can't even fight for us. So that even that we are teaching, see us as our enemy, as enemies. So how do you fight? So we need to first look inside, build ourselves. See, there are developed countries don't believe in union anymore. You're like, they don't. Is it because our culture is the collective type of culture? That's why we work with unions, and union must stop before you survive. Go to the US. You fight for your rights because labor laws are already there for every man to follow. If the law says work for 1 hour, this we're going to pay you. You work for that, and if a person defaults, you tell the person to the law and answer specific. But here we work under one union, and so the union use us as instrument of enriching themselves. So for me, we need to go back to the table and assess ourselves as ASU. What are we really doing to build technology using the platform of education for this country? When we do that, government will now say that this is what academics is doing. Now partnership comes in, we begin to partner ourselves. So even when government takes action, maybe in terms of budget preparation or whatever, they must ask ASU, what do you think we can do with this budget? There should be that synergy between teachers and governance.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's come over to you, Garuba. What do you think of this call by Seraph to the federal government that the president's feeding and travel allowances, as well as that of the National Assembly, should be channeled to meeting the demands of ASU? Don't you think that's a little bit overboard?
Well, thank you, Anita, once again. Sincerely, I can hardly hear most of the maybe discussion going on there, most of the questions you are asking. But then, if I get you right, you are asking me to know what I think should be based on the call for by Seraph for the National Assembly and other budgets to be tailored towards solving ASU perennial strike. For me, sincerely, let's be very candid. I salute Seraph. I mean, when you look at the civil society organization, I think Seraph has been doing a very good job, has been lending voices to maybe on so many occasions they have been talking and standing out for sustenance of democracy and then trying to ensure that the rule of law prevails in what we do. But you see, as much as we are tired of ASU strike, as much as we are tired of these incessant strikes year in, year out, and then the call again by ASU and other bodies for federal government to really listen to the call they have been making all these years, the pleas and whatever, even with warning strikes and all those things, for them to really do something about the education sector. I think that has not been done. So what we need to do is that, first of all, Seraph, I feel we should, in collaboration with other civil society organizations, faith-based organizations and other pressure groups, should really come out and really challenge the government. That means if we don't cut the cost of governance, it is actually going to be very difficult for some of these things, for us to have some of these things being achieved. And I tell you this, the National Assembly,
go on. Now, we understand that Seraph is actually calling for the good of the students who actually want to go back to school. But also looking at the fact, just like Sir, you've said, the government would be moved if they see some results coming out of the previous investments. And until that is done, I mean, no father wants to give out money to the child to go back to school and then you're coming back and there's nothing. And then we hear a whole lot. I think sometime in Uniport, I had some engineering students manufactured some vehicles, some test vehicles sort of, and at the end of the day, ended there in the lab. You know, so if at the end of the day, students invest so much and the federal government is also investing, and we can't even use this in our societies. So it becomes some sort of wasteful investment. So what are you actually saying to us to top up their game and start making sure that whatever is given to them is utilized for the society to make full benefit of it all?
The major problem we have in our polity is that monster called corruption. And so every politician that's aspiring to be a leader in our climes is interested in how much he gets, not how much Nigeria gets. And so when you begin to ask for money for ASU, now the main actors, now if we give ASU this, what will remain of us in the system? And they run a bogus government. Now government has to pay councillors, government has to pay commissioners, SAs, even councillors have SAs. Commissioners have 3 SAs. Are you seeing the burden, financial burden, that comes all the way from Abuja? And that's where there is difficulty in the kind of governance we run in Nigeria. There's so much burden on governance.
So I think that's why ASU is feeling
Yes.
like they are not taken into consideration.
Good. That's why I said, ASU, every ASU president or chairman, when you assume office, change your narrative. First, visit presidency. Discuss the presidency as a friend, as a partner. I say we are the knowledge, offerers in this country. We develop knowledge, we give out knowledge. So what we need to do, let's partner. So let's tell them what we have as a program. So that in your policy formulations, you capture our interests. So in that way, we can help you build your government with you and build a nation. These things are lacking. I've not seen any ASU leadership that say when the government takes over or you become a president of ASU, you've paid a courtesy call on government and discuss on the mutual ground how we can build our nation. I've not seen. The other thing we hear every day on news is ASU have reaching to government, this is our demand, 2009 demand has not been implemented. That's what we use that as a tool every day.
Saying a cordial relationship.
It's like you can do. See, there are some of these things can be discussed and be addressed, and government will look at it in piecemeal, a milestone achievement. Government can do that. See, no matter how bad the government is, if you organize yourself and approach the government in a mutual way, you can change your attitude. We have not used that, and that's where I'm saying that in labor relations we have passed that level of fight at adversarial level. Our approach has changed, and what the world is discussing, not this approach we are using in Nigeria. We have gone past that level. We are discussing partnership, even at the private industry level. We discuss partnership. Let's engage ourselves and let's discuss our problems so that mutually we can solve our problems. We are not doing that. I'm not saying that syrup is out of way. No. What they are demanding is right. But before we make that demand, can we come inward? Let's look at what we are doing.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's just move away from that and look at our next issue on Water Resources Bill. Rights of citizens over freshwater resources will be taken away with impunity, says Autumn. The Benue State government has called the attention of Nigerians to the fact that the reintroduced Water Resources Bill was directed at their fundamental right to fresh water. The Benue government, in a statement issued by the special advisor to Governor Samuel Otom on media and publicity, Teva Akase, stated that the bill would violate the rights of Nigerians. The statement reveals that the bill will deny state and local government authorities as well as individuals the right to make use of the water in their backyard until they get permission from Abuja. We want to alert Nigerians again that if the National Water Resources Bill is passed into law, the rights of citizens over freshwater resources, say ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, and springs, will be taken away with impunity. The federal government's insistence to take over the control of water resources across the country is tantamount to the suppression and enslavement of indigenous people of this country. We call on other states' governments to rise and resist the land and water grabbing bill currently before the National Assembly. This is an opportunity for all patriots to stand to be counted as those who resisted modern-day slavery. It would be recalled that the bill, which provoked controversy in the National Assembly between 2017 and 2020, was reintroduced on Wednesday by the chairman of the House Committee on Water Resources, Sada Soli from Katsina State. Muhammadu Buhari's administration had sent the proposed law to the National Assembly as an executive bill on April 11, 2017. Now, I tried to look at some of the contents of this bill, and one of it is that the federal government has the control over the surface and underground waters, and then it also holds that the federal government would give license to people to drill boreholes, and if the license actually can be revoked if the water is not put to beneficial use. Now, it also states that the water, if anyone has excess of it, that it has to give it out to those who need others, or the government would have to intervene. I mean, these are some of the contents of this bill that I find worrisome. But first of all, let's look at the call by Autumn. So, what do you think of this call by Autumn?
The governor of Benue State is right by all indications. Governments, whether federal or state, at the moment has no right to own whether surface or underground water. The reason being that if you can trace our living history into the early, maybe in the 70s, into the 80s, when government provided water for all households, and that's why the government, we have utility bills, government control water, and they supply them to different houses, and you pay water bills. Today, how many governments provides water to domestic homes? How many? Even the infrastructure that convey water to houses have been broken by succeeding government. And so unless government has taken up the function of providing reticulated water to houses, the government can now control water to all the houses. But when individuals have waited in their lack and could not find water, and by God's providence, there is water underneath, they did their boreholes and ordered them. No government has right by any bill to own such water. And so as individual, we have right to sue government.
Okay, sir. All right, Gariba, what's your take on the water resources bill that has passed the second reading in the National Assembly?
What's the problem?
All right, we'll just go on a short break right now. I will return after that.
I think the connection is not.
Is it from his end or from us?
In our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And before we went on the break, we were just talking about the Water Resources Bill that's passed second reading at the National Assembly and the controversy surrounding it. Okay, Gariba, let's just get your opinion on the Water Resources Bill.
Again.
Looking at the Water Resources Resources Bill and the controversy. What's your take?
Okay, if I get you right, you're asking me about the controversy surrounding the Water Resources Bill.
Exactly.
And for me, I feel, you see, like I said before, the short break, Nigerians are already asking for maybe control of resources and other things, resource control and all those things. And as far as I'm concerned, the other time when it was introduced at the National Assembly, that bill was actually somehow could not scale through and all that. And I think what may inform some of these decisions or maybe positions is the fact that already people are feeling that there is so much control of resources by the government at the center. And therefore, they need to have some sign of relief by being able to control some of the resources that maybe God has endowed in maybe around and surrounding their vicinity and maybe the geopolitical zone or regions. So Autumn was loud the other time when this water resources came on board. And I think he knows why he's saying so. They feel it will actually hamper them from deriving the right benefits that he feels should really accrue to people who own some of them, who, having those resources domiciled in their domain. So I feel I still see the possibility of that bill also having a problem again. Because on a very similar as it is now, you can see the level of things in the country, security, there is crime almost everywhere. People are like, gentlemen, please allow us to go on state policing and all those things. And those things, we've not been able to get that done. And I tell you, the earlier, for me, I feel the earlier we allow some of these resources to be controlled by some of those states, and then the better for us. It will just be better for us. But then there are some other issues. How well do we use these water resources? How well do we use them? Because the maritime, we know, the maritime domain, if actually there is no proper legislation and then maybe control, there will always likely going to be breach in security, breach and some breach in maritime safety and some other things. We can't forget about some of the issues happening surrounding the mismanagement or the misuse of the water resources we have. Even in the transport sector, you could see that there is no proper legislation and people. So for me, I know there has to be some levels of control, but that has to be, the subnationals have to be allowed to actually have some fair control of some of those things to enable us actually harness the real benefits that are supposed to be accruing to us because of the gift that God has given us.
All right, so you're actually saying that the states should be allowed control over the water resources.
Yes, what I'm saying is that, yes, so not absolutely, but I say they should be allowed to really legislate some of those things because sincerely speaking, and like I say, if you like, you can take that position. I said the only challenge I have now is the security. How well are we able to manage some of these things? How are we able to manage? If the states have no shown capacity, though, that's what we also see because in Nigeria today, whenever there is a problem, we always focus on the center. Virtually every problem in Nigeria, we forget about the councillor within our vicinity, we forget about the local government chairman, we forget about the state governors, and even the state governors themselves, even in some instances where they outrightly fail to meet up with their responsibilities, they will still blame the federal government on some of those. So for me, I feel if really there are right mechanisms put in place for them to do that, while the federal government also will have a higher form of oversight over them, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the issue is that we must ensure that the safety and security of the maritime domain and maritime sector actually are properly harnessed and all that. There are lots of people, and there is this fear already. People are having this fear that means they are going to be denied their source of livelihood. They are going to be denied access to earning their livelihood. So if we must have this done and then done in good faith, it means we must also carry along all the people that matter. If we don't do that, I think we'll continue to have problems with some of these things. And I tell you, the grassroots, the masses at the lower level, at the foot of the ladder, I tell you, they won't be supporting anything that they feel will deny them their means of livelihood. So these are some of the things that people are also complaining are actually misconceptions. So the problem we've also been having with our policies and legislation is that we fail to consult widely. We ignore some maybe some sectors or a part of the strata of the society. And when you're legislating over people, the people should be able to actually be part of the legislation so that they will really be happy and be comfortable, maybe abiding by whatever the legislation comes with. But if we don't do that, I think we have a lot of problems. And this is virtually almost every sector. You can see we are battling with so many things, and then that focus on the center almost always actually has to change if we must really go forward.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Okay, Prof, let's just come to you now. He has talked about allowing the state government and the people, but I'm also looking at the rural dwellers. So the government is trying to regulate or rather take control over the surface and the underground water. So it means even the rural dwellers that go fishing in their ponds and seas would also be affected. They need licenses from the government. Don't you think, like he has said, that these people should be taken into consideration before any such bill is passed?
In developed economies, maritime laws actually is state bound. Now, if you live like rivers people, rivers the government should pass laws that affect the waters around them. Like if you get to maybe the United Kingdom, no fisherman is allowed, to catch maybe a fish that is less than 1 kilogram. That's how law works. Now, but here in our country, any young man or woman will go and buy dynamite, hit the water, blow it up, and kill every living thing there. That's where laws need to come in. So it is actually within the purview of state governments, to have laws that protect the eco life, especially in the fishes. The same way they should protect the animals in the bush, because you go and hunt for smaller fishes that are not yet mature to be eaten. And so the procreation of life of the fishes is hampered. So government actually need to control that in their maritime laws. However, for waters that we use domestically, if government is not providing reservoir water for the houses, government should not in any way be part of the way people use water. If I spend my fund in drilling borehole, why should government collect money for what I spend for? License to do what?
To drill a borehole.
Now, if government has a role to play for the survival of mankind in their state, then they should provide water. Don't allow man, individuals, to drill borehole. What you do, provide water for every man so you can not control it and let them pay to you. And that's a safer way for government to raise funds. Government before now did that, and they succeeded. So what's happening to this government now? If government cannot provide water for us, do not get involved. Even states should not get involved in passing any law that will make us pay money to them or own it or license. What government is doing, which is right, is what's it called them? NAFDAC. NAFDAC controls if you are into commercial production, the kind of water you provide to the populace. Now, so ensure that this water is okay, not hazardous to. That government's oversight function on the kind of water that we drink. But since government not providing water for us, government also loses the right to ask to own the water and ask us to pay or have license. Government doesn't have that right to do that. And what's my advice to Otom and other governors who are on the same page with him is to, if there's any provision within the confines of law, is to go to the court and get an order stopping the National Assembly from passing that bill into law. But that would be a mess on all of us. Government should be sincere to what they are doing. Provide water for all of us, and we can pay. We're not afraid of paying, but provide the water for us. But if I provide my water, then you don't have right to pass any law on it. That's my take.
All right, now, Garba, a clause from the bill states that we are not expected to have excess water, so you must have just that which you need. And I've been trying to ask myself, how do we define excess water within the context of this provision? I mean, how can you restrict people from having excess water?
I think for me, this is one of the ridiculous parts of the bill. I wouldn't lie to you. Because when you begin to define excess now, how do you measure it? What do you use in measuring excess water? Imagine that kind of thing. How do you measure excess water? So the issue is more like almost like advisory rather than maybe putting something into law. But as far as I'm concerned, it is better we even talk of National Orientation Agency orientating and then orientating people on actually the right, how people should use water properly. But the issue of talking about bill, talking about excess water, controlling excess water, in fact, even the list we don't even have. How much discharged water, how much is it today? So you can imagine, I mean, for me, as far as I'm concerned, honestly, it can be so sorry to say, but so many people will find this very annoying. I won't just lie. That's what I feel, that's my take about that. People will find it annoying because when you define excess, it's better you call it advisory. You advise people rather than legislating on excess. Who will now be the person to actually define the excess, and then who will now go and maybe say, okay, you are using this water excessively. How do you define that? And do they have the people that will go after people who use the water excess? We like laws in Nigeria. But we don't keep to them. Here's the problem. And then this particular one, I don't really know. Honestly, it's a little ridiculous for someone to be talking about excess.
Thank you very much, sir. Says we like laws in this part of the country. Okay, let's just move away from that and look at inmates' education. 7 inmates graduate from the National Open University in Rivers State. No fewer than 7 inmates of the Port Harcourt's Maximum Correctional Center, Rivers State, have received certificates after they graduated from the National Open University of Nigeria. The inmates were part of the graduates in the 2021-2022 academic session in March this year, but were unable to join their colleagues in the convocation due to incarceration. The Registrar, National Open University, Felix Odoka, while handing the certificates to the inmates at a brief yet colorful and award presentation held at the Correctional Center located along Dockyard Road in Rivers State capital, said, "Today we are handing over certificates to 7 inmates who have graduated from the National Open University of Nigeria. Among this number, we have 2 inmates that made second class upper. The remaining 5 made second class lower. We want to use this opportunity to appeal to those in incarceration that are yet to fill out our forms to do so. The purpose of getting the university to the Correctional Center is to ensure that we provide opportunities for those who want to develop themselves, so that by the time you get out of this place, hopefully there will be no difference between you and those outside. To make this possible, the university is granting this education to you people, inmates, free of charge." The Deputy Controller of Corrections in charge of Port Harcourt's Maximum Corrections Center, Etim Effiong, said the management was encouraging other inmates to enroll in the university and further their education. Effiong said, "Your being here is not a barrier. You can be in a facility like ours, you can be in confinement and pursue your educational goals, even to doctorate degree levels. Not only has the National Open University brought this to us here, they facilitate and encourage us and provide all the equipment needed for this to be achieved." Now, Prof, I'm looking at the fact that these, first of all, let's say, what do you think of taking study centers to the correctional facilities?
What actually worries me now is, do the National Open Universities have the infrastructure to run a program in the correctional centers? Do they really have that?
They have 12 study centers in.
You can have centers, but do you have the infrastructure for learning? Now, if you want to run virtual learning process, now what that means is that the inmates will right there where they are interface with lecturers in their houses or in their offices. You teach them. Yeah, I agree. But do we really have that? Even in the normal, apart from National Open Universities, in the normal universities, we're having it as a problem running a full-scale digital learning, because the infrastructure that can enhance that development is still not yet fully developed. Our society is not networked. Now, individual has to buy their internet. Either you are using a Glo you are using MTN, you are using Airtel or Enter, as the case may be, and the atomicity problem, like some network breakdown, networks comes up, is still there. So before a university, national university, will take that, first, Nigerians should be aware of the infrastructure that they have on ground to accommodate this teaching and learning. Because why it is a concern to me is a lot of universities stay in their houses that want certificate. And that's why we have people who runs on the streets are just certificated and not actually graduates. So because we lay more emphasis in certificate, so anybody stays in his house and uses certificate and say you are a graduate, and it becomes a signboard. So when you say you have a first degree, open university, this, that, you go with it. And the contents of what we carry is not even what can be shown to anybody. And so when Nigerians should know what capacity that National Open University has in terms of learning infrastructure to run the program in the correctional center. Yes, it is done in the other world, in the advanced economies. But do we have the facility to run them here? Or we just do that to boost the image of our program?
All right.
That's the issue.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's come over to you, Garuba. Now, in 2014, the best graduating students from the National Open University was from a correctional center, actually an inmate. And then we have numerous students graduating the system, even a PhD holder. What do you make of this, considering the psychology and the environment?
Research.
Yeah, thank you once again. For me, I feel it's a welcome development, sincerely. Let me be very honest. I mean, that's my take. But the prof is a very important question, talking about the quality of learning taking place there. But if the prof will allow me, with due respect, even the conventional universities we have, I think this is the major problem we have.
Yes.
The issue of infrastructure. And even apart from the infrastructure, even discipline among the staff is also an issue. With due respect, I happen to sometimes back happen to be in one of the higher institutions. Also, I mean,